I'm in the empire business.
Everybody love everybody!
You all know exactly who I am.
What's happening, everybody? Hey, I got my good buddy, Coach Rob Beams, and then Johnny Hopper's here too. Love Johnny too. Johnny's awesome. This is a topic that, in true Johnny Hopper fashion, if we're going to have him on, the troublemaker, the internet troublemaker that he is, we're going with biggest disappointment. Johnny, I'm going to start with you in the Supercross series. We're going to give you a minute, and you tell me who your biggest disappointment is, my man.
All right, this one was kind of tough because truthfully, I had a couple for the 450s. Sexton, even though I had picked him third, I think he's my biggest disappointment still because he should be winning. He should be winning, and he should have a Supercross title, especially how he was riding last year and into Motocross. He's got the cojones to make it happen, but can he last 17 rounds? We're not even talking 33 rounds. And I was also kind of asterisk there with Cooper Webb because there's a lot of guys, he's never really been the fastest, and now he went back to the Baker's factory. Is he going to be able to really make it happen? And 250s, I have to say Max Voland is my biggest disappointment because I'm waiting for something to surprise me, and there's nothing that has happened. So I'm like, dude, how long are we going to continue to do this? I wish him the best, but I want somebody to light a lighter in some butt wax under there so that, start a fire.
There you go with the butt wax again. Johnny, what is going on with you, man? Everything all right at home these days?
It's a recession. Can't afford butt wax.
Oh, Coach, you got any rebuttals, or you want to go right into your biggest disappointment?
No, I have no rebuttals whatsoever. This is this is a real man sport, and it's difficult to go the distance for sure.
Timer, Johnny. Coach, hit it.
Well, my biggest disappointment is going to go a completely different direction, and my biggest disappointment is the length of the season. I think it's really crazy to think that these athletes and Johnny, you did a great job in your last show talking about, the ragged edge that these riders are on, that step on. Chris, you talked about it in your last show as well, that step on, step off, and you showed the slow motion of Chad's bike locking up. The attrition rate is going to be atrocious. And I have mad respect. There's not a single person that's got a pro card that isn't a bad mofo on a motorcycle. To think that they're going to be able to race from the beginning of January to the middle of October, I'm a little bit concerned about what is the show going to look like. And Chris, you did an in-depth on, the integration of the series and everything else. What are we going to be looking at when we get to October? Is it the Walking Dead? Do we even have a full date? And again, I'm no disrespect to anybody, but to go this distance of this length is very, very disappointing to think that an organizing or a group of organizers thinks that this is sustainable. That's my biggest disappointment.
Coach went over, but I didn't care. Coach was on a good tangent there, and I was going to let it go.
I take mine back. And
are we going to see Josh Greco as a factory rider fill-in by October? Like, how far are we going to go down the row? Like, you got a great point, and
adding more racing is not it.
Well, the only team that's equipped, is Star Yamaha, as you guys mentioned in another video. They're the only ones that have a roster deep enough that they could have, no exaggeration, what do they have? 6, 7, 8, 9. If you add Daxton Bennett and you add Hayden Deegan back into the equation. I mean, they're the only one that I don't know what Daniel Blair has in the hopper for KTM and Gask and Husqvarna, because there's somebody that's in that short list that could be pulled up the way that Deegan and Daxton have been. I mean, this could be an ugly season in regards to who the hell is going to be racing motorcycles come October.
Well, and Coach, what's even worse for me is not this season, but leading into next season with almost no off season. Exactly. What's that going to look like? The first year, I think they're almost going to get away with it, but the second year is where we're going to see the real attrition hitting these guys. And with that, I'll head into my disappointment. Johnny, timer. Okay, so I'm going to go with a weird one here. Jet Lawrence. Jet Lawrence, it's disappointing to me that he's on the 250. I thought he was going to ride a 450 after his performance at Des Nations. I texted his agent, Lucas Myrtle. I said, put him on the 450 right now. He's ready. He's a bigger guy. I think you're literally wasting an opportunity to have him win races and possibly a 450 championship and start a historic run. Instead, they're holding him, and now he's going to be subject to those same types of risks. And I just, I don't like it. And then the other disappointment I had in the 450s is Adam Cincerillo. To no fault of his own, his body is not cooperating from what I've heard, despite everyone telling me everything's fine. It's not. His hand has issues. I pray there's a miracle and something happens, but I don't see that happening. And I think Adam may have to hit a separate point in his career where he changes stuff. Does something different. And that's my disappointment.
And think about how disappointing it is based on what we were just talking about. You're looking at somebody who had to ride hurt. And what do we always say? The second injury is worse because you didn't heal from the first one. And it's not just AC relevant. You could go down 250 class, 450 class, and go over the last 30 years. I don't understand when you've invested in these riders. And I understand you've got to have representation on the track, but why do we not have a program that has a secondary group of riders that can fill in for somebody? So you have 2 primary riders, you have 2 backup riders. That way, when one of those 2 get hurt, one of those guys can go in. They've been practicing on the bike. They're already acclimated to it. The company sponsors get their representation, so we don't have any issues there. How many more years are we going to have this same fallout where athletes are racing? They're wrapping up broken bones because their contract says if they don't finish X amount of races, they lose part of their salaries. I know it's part of contracts, but I mean, we're about to see the colliding of the 2 big asteroids together. Riders that are riding injured, sick, and then a series that's now been extended. It's just a perfect disaster waiting to happen. And AC is probably the biggest highlight of how wrong it is for these guys to have to ride when they're injured.
And I do think, go ahead, Johnny.
No, I was trying not to interrupt you. Go, Cooksey.
I think it's interesting how the series, I do love that it's all on Peacock, but it's funny, as soon as they get competition, $10 million comes out of nowhere, and I do think the guys have needed this, but they don't need it on the end. They just need to infuse this into the current schedule was too long as is. So.
Well, that's why I think we're going to see a lot of guys jump ship and go to World Supercross and then be done, and so that they can prepare for normal Supercross again too. They don't have to worry about these super motocross stuff, or you'll see them take the whole summer off, and then because they qualified with the silly rules as far as you just need to win a race to qualify, then you can show back up 3 months later and win $1 million at a race and make it happen here. So I don't understand the thought process with when you have riders that are ridden hard and put away wet to just push them even harder. There's way back when you used to carry a second horse with you so you could run one horse till it dies and hop on the other one. Well, if you don't have a second horse, you're just continuing to what are you doing? As coach would say, that this is just, there's a lot of stuff that's probably kept hidden in order to make it happen for guys to come out on top, because a normal athlete cannot make it happen. So we literally Supercross should have been cut by 4 or 5 races. Motocross should only be a 6 race series, and boom, they total should be about 20 races, but we might be getting into something that is for a later video. But that's my multiple cents, not just 2 cents, maybe a dime.
Yeah, it's really hard for me. Yeah, it's hard for me not to get into the next part and the reason that they do this. I mean, you talk about the different animals that were run to death. Well, it just so happens that the promoter used to be a circus. They used to run the circus, and we'll leave it at that. We'll leave that for the next video.
Well, I mean, look at already the attrition rate, what we were talking about earlier. So you've got Heart Raft that had a bike bog, and then Jeremy Martin just had a chain snap, and they almost lost the whole season before it even started. Well, Heart Raft definitely has, and this potentially could have been the best bike that he could have been on with the infusion of progressive there. So it's a heartbreak all the way around, especially when you're making the series longer, because it's not like these guys just pause. They're riding year round at this point to test because testing is huge for the factories.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we'll wrap it up a little bit early. Hey, go figure. We have a shorter podcast, guys. So anyway,
you sure you want to do that?
I'm good. We'll look for the next one. The next one is we're going to predict our A1 winners. Is that right, Johnny?
Let's effing do it.
So you head over to Johnny's channel and we will predict our A1s. No, you got to go over to Johnny's place. And nobody wants to go there. I heard there's butt waxing. Oh. Such a dick, Johnny. 2 for 2.
Actually, I'm still recording, so I can still leave it in. I just, the Zoom just isn't recording.
Oh, you're killing me here, bro.
Butt wax 2023, not hemp.
You should leave it in where you cut me out like that. That's even funnier.
Kickstart Kenny, sponsored by Butt Wax.
I was going to say, there's some company out there
some hemp butt wax.
Hey, buttwax.com. We'll be happy to support that show, whatever the hell it is.
Get your hemp butt wax.
Here we go.